Good morning and welcome. My name is Deborah Bruck Buckeye, and I am the council member for the town of Amherst. It is my distinct privilege to be the chair of the Amherst 9/11 Commemoration Committee for the 10th time. We gather this morning on the anniversary, the 20th, of 9/11 to remember the civilians, firefighters, police officers, first responders, and dedicated flight crews who died on that tragic day. Today we honor all 2,977 victims, the heroes who sacrificed their lives, and most especially 27 exceptionally courageous individuals with a connection to Amherst and to Western New York. Our commemoration committee first started to talk about the 20th anniversary about 2 years ago, and has worked since then very hard to prepare a reverent ceremony remembering those lost and to provide solace and comfort to the families, loved ones, and friends left behind. Thank you to two very special family members on our committee, Leonard Castriano, who is here, and Karen Eckert, for their strength and unrelenting devotion to this initiative. An event such as this requires the assistance of so many town officials, department heads, and staff. The Amherst Police Honor Guard and the Gettsville Fire Company are participating again this year. The Williamsville East High School Chorale, under the direction of Maureen Riley, and bagpipers Danny Farrell and Marley Becker will provide peace and reflection through music. I thank them and everyone listed on the last page of your program booklet for their enthusiastic collaboration. Extraordinary recognition goes to former Amherst Town Supervisor Susan Relic and the town board serving in 2001 for their vision to create this memorial and event. I want to give special thanks to the Amherst Town Board, Supervisor Brian Culpa, Deputy Supervisor Jacqueline Berger, Councilmember Sean Lavin, Councilmember Michael Zucala for their continuing support of this endeavor. Amherst Highway Superintendent Patrick Lucy and the Youth and Recreation Department Head Mary Diana Pulley, both here today, provided tremendous assistance with logistical support. Gratitude is also extended to Dawn Sarah, our secretary to the council members, who helped with numerous phone calls, letters, emails, and errands to carry out our ceremony plan. Truly, everyone has worked together with a unity of purpose and a shared commitment. Most of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today, as your presence is really what makes our ceremony memorable. I wish to acknowledge some additional dignitaries who came to share this experience with us. Congressman Brian Higgins, who we will hear from in a bit. Joan Kessner, Governor Kathleen Huckles, Western New York Regional Representative. New York State Senator Edward Rath III. New York State Assemblywoman Karen McMahon. Amherst Town Clerk Francina Spoth. Town of Amherst Judge Jeff Klein. Williamsville Village Trustees Christine Hunt and David Sherman. Dr. Khalid Kazi, Chair of the Amherst Community Diversity Commission. Rick Gillard, former Town of Amherst Planning Director. And A.J. Baines, President of the Amherst Chamber of Commerce. Finally, someone who has been part of many ceremonies in the past and back to celebrate this 20th anniversary today is Donald Postles, WIVB Channel 4 news anchor. So let's now welcome Don as our Master of Ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Wow, 20 years ago, and look at what a fantastic job the town of Amherst has done with this memorial. When we saw the planes fly into the World Trade Center, I think few of us knew that there'd be so many local people who lost their lives that day. And I think about the years I've spent with Len, a bond that formed that actually led to golf a round of golf together, and happier times. But I am honored to be here today, and we'll begin the program today with the Town of Amherst Police Honor Guard with a presentation of colors. The Williamsville East High School Chorale will lead us now in our national anthem. And now, our Amherst Town Supervisor, Brian Culpa, will come forward for lead us in a moment of silence and introduce other dignitaries. Brian?
I mean, 20 years ago, it seemed that the world had changed very quickly. The perseverance, the strength, and fortitude of this nation has carried us through for the past 20 years, and this event should serve as a reminder of what America is, how strong we are as a nation, how strong we are as communities, and it's with special gratitude that we all should honor our brave men and women of our emergency services and first responders. Today is a very special anniversary, and I would ask everybody to please bow your heads for a moment of silence to commemorate those we lost and honor those who served. It is with great gratitude this afternoon that this morning that I get to introduce Joan Kestner, Western New York's regional representative from Governor Hochul's office, and I'd like to welcome her at this time. Thank
you. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting the governor here. As you well know, she is in New York City for the services there, but she wanted me to be here to let you know that you're all in her thoughts and prayers on this day. On behalf of Governor Hochul, it's an honor to be here with you today on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. No matter how many years pass, the pain and a sense of loss is always there. That is why it is so important that we gather today to remember, to reflect, to honor the loved ones we lost and preserve their story of sacrifice for generations to come. Today is the day we tell the world we will never forget, and it is also the day to show the world how far we have come. Yes, we are locked down, but we are rising stronger than ever. That is the spirit of New York. To face adversary, come together, and rise even higher than before. And how we were able to do this in the aftermath of that terrible day, when all seemed to be lost, the answer is simple and inspiring. We came together from day one. When those brave men and women, our first responders, rushed into harm's way, into unimaginable horrors, we mourned together. We built back together in the days and years after that vicious attack. Make no mistake, it wasn't easy. But through our history in New York, we have constantly risen above tough odds and built what others would have considered absolutely impossible. It's important to remember the story of 9/11 and what we did to overcome that tragedy. Important because once again we're facing what others would consider impossible. We have the COVID pandemic and the climate change that we're all working together to overcome. For anyone who says we're not up to the job, I just say look at where we were 20 years ago. We were a nation reeling from the worst terror attack on U.S. soil. Everything seemed so bleak. The sense of despair was unimaginable. Yet even as the fires were still smoldering in our streets and in our hearts, we came together upstate and downstate. Volunteers from Western New York rushed to New York City to help and recover efforts. So as we move forward in this new time of crisis, we should take the time to look back and remember September 11th, to mourn our losses, honor the sacrifice made by so many men and women, brave men and women, and to be inspired by what we accomplished as we unite as one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We know Kathy's heart is still here in Western New York, but her role has kind of expanded in New York City and the World Trade Centers where it's happening this morning, but here in Western New York it's happening here. And back in 2001, this Memorial Hill, if you remember how small the trees were back in 2002, and during the pandemic, my wife and I would ride our bikes along this path and pause and look at this beautiful place, and it's really the foresight of our town supervisor back then, and that was Susan Grellick. And we want to thank you for giving this Memorial Hill. Why don't you say a few words and reflect on your time. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. We all have our private memories of the fear, grief, and shock of 9/11. I certainly have mine. Each hour of that day and each day of that week seemed like it brought a new piece of awful news. But another memory that today's ceremony calls to mind is of a phone call I received on September 12th. That day, a fellow resident, Leonard Castriano, called with a broken heart. His son, Leonard Castriano Jr., perished on the 105th floor of the World Trade Center. To read accounts from Leonard's friends and family is to see what a warm and joyful human being he was. His twin sister, who's here today, wrote, "Leonard's love for our family shined through in everything he did and everything he said." When Leonard called me, we discussed how best to honor his son's memory and the memory of so many others who were taken from us. 27 of our own in Western New York perished in the attacks, and their families and their names are listed in the program. We decided to erect a permanent memorial to educate future generations about what happened and the lives we lost. Many here today didn't experience September 11th. Stories and memorials are all you have. But you also have what came out of that phone call and many other calls throughout Western New York and the state and the nation, and all the efforts that took place in the days, weeks, and months that followed. On September 21st, 2001, just 10 days after the attack, the Amherst Town Board donated $50,000 for this Amherst Memorial Hill Grove. This is believed to be one of the first memorials created in the country. It's a living memorial with 100 trees in groups of 9 and 11, surrounded by a bench with pathways in the shape of a memorial ribbon. 11 red and white oak trees stand as a sentinel in a circle surrounding this memorial. The oak tree serves as a symbol of our strength and our resilience. And in the center, the flag sits atop the jagged rock, representing the devastation of 9/11. All of the trees, 120, and all the monuments that are in this memorial were donated by our community. Many of you made donations. You are here today, and we are grateful. 20 years later, and we are so grateful as we were then 20 years ago. This grove is different now than it was when it was first built. The roots run deeper, the branches are stronger. It serves to remind us how we joined together to create something good out of something so awful. For all of us, it is a powerful reminder to pause, take stock, and appreciate the days we have and the people to whom this memorial was dedicated. We have a duty to care for this grove and a duty to care for one another, and to use it and events like these to teach future generations about what happened on 9/11 and those we lost, and about how, much like the trees we planted, we can become stronger with each passing year. From unspeakable pain came this special place, and we hope it remains a peaceful sanctuary for decades to come. I am grateful to those who helped 20 years ago to make this site possible, and to those who continue to care for it today. May it continue to be a peaceful place for remembrance and understanding, and let us hope that our community and nation will keep up the hard work of ending hatred and bigotry. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So well said. Well, hi. How are you?
Thank you.
You did a great job back then, and we are very appreciative. The next guest needs no introduction. I've followed his career since he was a councilman, the Buffalo Common Council from South Buffalo. My pleasure to introduce, honored to have here today, Congressman Brian Higgins. Brian?
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to be here with all of you. You can't help but be moved by the contrasts of the day. 20 years ago, it was a beautiful, sunny morning, and then the darkness befell all of us, given that attack. But we remember both the tragic aspects of it, the heartbreaking aspects of it, but also the magic aspects of it, and the heartwarming aspects of it. On National Public Radio, they have a program called StoryCorps. And you know Karen Eckert, you know her sister Susan. Because of their great leadership and courage, they lost their sister, Beverly, in Flight 3407, and committed their lives to making sure that that didn't happen to anybody else. Came to Washington with a group who were equally aggrieved and changed federal laws to make the flying public safe. But Susan and Karen's tragedy did not begin on that day. It began 20 years ago when their sister Beverly, who was lost in 3407, lost her husband Sean Rooney on the 102nd floor of the World Trade Tower. And on StoryCorps, there's this beautiful exchange between Beverly and her husband. He was lying on the floor. He was talking not about revenge, not about hate, but they were talking about love. And they were talking about gratitude that they had toward one another for the beautiful life that they lived. And Beverly asked Sean over the phone a couple of minutes before the floor collapsed and he was lost, "Does it hurt?" And Sean said, "No, it doesn't hurt. I'm comfortable right now." Beverly said in the interview that's the only time that she felt Sean lied to her. So, again, a story of tragic and magic dimensions. So, over 3,000 people died that day in various circumstances. So you can't tell the story of everybody, but you collect the stories that are meaningful universally. And there's a story about the New York City fire chaplain, Father Michael Judge. Father Michael Judge was a Franciscan priest, chaplain of the New York City Fire Department. He was gay, but honored his vow of celibacy. He was an alcoholic who hadn't drank in 20 years. I tell you that because that's what he told everybody else. Whether it was somebody that was homeless or somebody that was the President of the United States, because what the message he was conveying was that we are all broken. We are all broken. On different days and in different ways, but we are all broken. And we all need each other, particularly in times of tragedy. You remember the iconic photo of 9/11, front page of the New York Times. There's 5 first responders carrying a chair with an individual who had died. That individual was Father Michael Judge. He was the first to arrive at the North Tower. Before it collapsed, he was befell by a heart attack. So they picked him up, put him in the chair, and they carried him to Barclay Street, a block and a half from the 9/11 site. It was St. Peter's Church, St. Peter's Catholic Church. And while they were laying Father Michael Judge's body on the altar, the South Tower had collapsed. So even in death, Michael Judge was saving people, literally and figuratively. Father Michael Judge's eulogist was a fellow Franciscan, his best friend, by the name of Father Michael Duffy. Father Michael Duffy talked about his friend with great love and admiration. At the end of the eulogy, he said that today we say goodbye to Father Michael Judge's voice, but not his message. We say goodbye to his body, but not his spirit. We say goodbye to his hands, but not his good works. We say goodbye to his heart, but never his love. Never his love. Thank you for including me.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to ask the friends and family of the 27 victims to come forward, and there's 2 more. We're going to recall the names of our local victims and the airline representatives to come forward at this time.
That's great. Names of the World Trade Center, North Tower. Brandon J. Buchanan, 24 years old, Cantor Fitzgerald. Michael Canty, 30, Car Futures. Leonard M. Castriano, 30 years old, Cantor Fitzgerald.
Shai Levenhar, 29, Kenner Fitzgerald. Stephen Hoffman, 36, Kenner Fitzgerald. And H. Joseph Heller, 37, Car Futures. My brother, Christopher Wonder, 34, Kenner Fitzgerald. Daniel Robert Nolan, 44, Marsh McLennan. Michael P. O'Brien, 42, Kenner Fitzgerald.
Eric Thorpe, 35. Keith Brunette and Williams and Woods. Rodney James Woolton, 36, Fiduciary Trust International. Pentagon David W. Lashak, 40, Civilian Budget Analyst, U.S. Army.
Margaret Wallier Seeliger, 34, Aon Corporation. Jeffrey Shaw, 42, Forest Electric Company. And my brother-in-law, Sean Rooney, 50, Aon Corporation.
Todd Polino, 34, Cantor Fitzgerald. John Patrick Solomon, 37, Cantor Fitzgerald. Melissa Vincent, 28, Alliance Consulting.
United Airlines flight attendant, flight 175, Amy King. United Airlines flight 175, Michael Turow. American Airlines flight 77, Renee May, 39 years old, flight attendant.
World Trade Center South Tower, firefighter Robert Fonte, 42, ladder 7. Philip T. Hayes, 67, fire safety director. Firefighter Michael F. Lynch, 30, engine 40. Lieutenant Paul T. Mitchell, 46, Battalion 1. Firefighter Christopher Santora, engine 54. Firefighter Dennis Cicero, 46, Hazmat 1. Gettysville Fire Company past Chief Irving A. Eisenberg, deployed to New York City to work at Ground Zero in the days following 9/11. Past Chief Eisenberg succumbed to a form of cancer linked to Ground Zero exposure on November 1st, 2019. Ellicott Creek firefighter Ronald Smeller, deployed to New York City to work at Ground Zero in the days following 9/11. Ron succumbed to a form of cancer linked to Ground Zero exposure on March 10th, 2020.
Our thanks to the Gettysville Fire Department, too, for the tolling of the bells and the placement of the wreath. I think we all know why we're here now, after hearing those names, and how united our nation was after that tragic day. Now I'm calling upon Alexander Francisco to lead us in taps. And now I call upon the Williamsville East High School Chorale for the reading of the poem and to lead us in song. Well done, thank you so much. To the crowd from Williamsville East, at this time I think it would be appropriate once again to call the family and friends together for the placement of the wreath. We remember and we will never forget. We want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. And before we leave, we're going to close with our bagpipes by Danny Farrell, Marley Becker. They're going to pay tribute to the victims of the Pentagon, victims of the World Trade Center, as well as Flight 93. Danny? Marley? On behalf of the Amherst Town Council, thank you each and every one for being here. And when's the next one, Deb? We're going to do it again next year? Or are we going to wait? But we'll never forget. Thank you for coming.